Typically, you have to get below the cost of production for an enduring period. And that's where, if you just look at the last 20 years of crude oil trading, the lows have been around 40 or lower, starting in 2008. I made that call a couple years ago. Yeah, I was wrong for a while, but it's the key thing to remember is the elasticity of price. Prices are going down now because they went up too much to the 2022 peak. It's that autocorrelations that's kicking in. The key question is what stops it. My main fear is what might accelerate is maybe a little detente in the Russia-Ukraine war, but a key thing that will accelerate this downward trend is just a little uptick in stock market volatility, and it looks like that might start just be happening towards the end of the year.
Okay, so interesting that you are looking at the correlation with equity volatility rather than headlines out of Russia, for instance, or Central America. We're looking at Brent right now, almost approaching $60 a barrel. WTI now above $55 a barrel. Talk a little bit about the geopolitical risks and the kind of havoc that they do wreak on oil prices.
Oftentimes, Scarlett, when you get these spikes potentially because of supply disruptions in the Middle East, prices spike, people sell forward, bring on more supply. See the trend there, rinse and repeat. Now, we've had those for a while. The high this year is around 80, and we had issues in the Middle East, and it heads lower. So that's the key thing. That geopolitical, it doesn't matter so much when the U.S. is a net exporter. That's what's changed over our entire lifetime.
Yes.
So we're net an increasing exporter, and the supply out of Canada and Argentina and Brazil and the U.S. and Guyana is all picking up. And so demand out of China is stagnant or declining. You see the trend there? So typically you got to get that trial to a low price cure. But I have to open the stock market because typically they roll together. And when crude oil is going down at this velocity with stock market going up, I'm really worried about a deflationary domino when we just get a little bit of maybe, let's say the 200-day moving average, you get the this S&P 500 back to that level, which is about a 10% correction. That's one of those things I think can get crude oil towards 40, but I don't know what's going to keep it above 70. Stuff I can't predict.
Interesting. All right, so that's the that's oil. How about gold here? It seems like after a little bit of a pause back down to 4,000, it's bounced right back.
That's a key thing about this year that emboldens me about these views, Pauls. We've never had an annual year with gold up this much, almost 70%, and crude oil down this much. That is a warning. I think it's telling us something's going on in the global economy that's potentially heading towards a normal deflationary period. But the thing that scares me about gold is I've started to use the word frightening because it's just the velocity of the rally in gold versus, say, 60-month moving average has never happened at this high velocity with stock market volatility to this low. So I think gold's telling us stock market volatility is going to pick up as we head towards next year, which means potentially pressure on everything except potentially treasury bonds.
What about silver? I'm just looking at today's gains, and I know we shouldn't look at these movements in isolation, but silver up more than 4% right now. We know that it was there was a bit of FOMO going on with silver during the rally in gold because people were like, gold has rallied so much. Let's take a look at the other precious metal.
I'm glad you went there, Scarlett. It's known as the devil's metal for a reason. This year's low, well, here's why. This year's low is 28. The last time we had a stronger year than this year, it's up almost 130%, was 1979. It was up 400%. That year's low was 32. So this year's low is actually lower. That's the key thing to remember about silver. It just have to be very careful, be more tactical. But buying, holding silver from these levels history does not show that it does very well. So maybe it gets up to 70 or 80, but then if history isn't a guide, these peaks we can put in might last for decades.